Welcome, my name is Matthew and this is MK's Book Club, where I review the books I have read most recently, giving you guys a few golden nuggets to help make a more educated decision on which books you should read next. So make sure to subscribe below and drop a like if you gain any value. This week we'll be covering Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game. So the first golden nugget I'm going to be sharing with you today is the 3 types of buckets Tony talks about. The first of which is the security or peace of mind bucket. These are assets that are lower volatility but lower growth. So some include cash, bonds, CDs, or annuities. The second type of bucket Tony talks about is the risk/growth bucket. Now, it is strategically named the risk/growth bucket because risk is guaranteed where growth is a possibility. So make sure when you put money in this bucket that you are able to lose it if that comes to it. So some different types of assets that would fit in this bucket are equities such as stocks or ETFs, high yield bonds, real estate, commodities like gold or oil, or collectibles like art, wine, or even watches. Then the third bucket that I don't hear a lot of financial advisors talk about is the dream bucket. This is essentially strategic spending or strategic splurging. This is where you put a small percentage away where you can enjoy your money today rather than waiting into retirement. Now, Tony stresses that to be successful in your personal finance, you must make deposits into each of these buckets automatically. Now, what percentages you might be asking should go in each bucket? Well, that's up to everyone's different life stage, their risk tolerance, and more. Now, a financial advisor would be able to help identify what allocation you should put in each bucket. So, when you are looking for your next financial advisor, there is a checklist you have, which is our second golden nugget. And on this checklist, the first and foremost and the most important is to make sure that your financial advisor is a financial fiduciary over a financial broker. As a financial broker, legally, it only has to give you suitable advice. So this suitable advice could actually be making them rich rather than you. Where a financial fiduciary is legally bound to give you the best possible financial advice for you. Now, to put it to the extremes of how much they're legally bound, a financial fiduciary that advises you to buy an Apple stock at, let's say, 115 in the morning and then goes ahead and buys it at 110 in the evening is legally bound to give you their financial stocks. The second thing you want to look out for is to make sure that the company doesn't offer any proprietary funds, as some companies will create their own products and then advise their clients to buy them. Obviously, you can see this is a massive conflicting of interest and may not be the best financial advice for you. Now, the third is to make sure that they are compensated on the percentage of assets under management. And you would like to ideally look for something under 1.25%, but even better, under 1% is what you would like. Now, you want to also make sure that they're not compensated anything on either buying or selling stocks or bonds, as this will encourage them to be more active in the stock market and may not be in the best interest for you. The final thing on the checklist is once you have found a financial advisor, to make sure that you don't give them your money directly, but rather hold it in a reputable third-party source. The third golden nugget that I've learned while reading this book is really summed up well by one of Warren Buffett's most infamous quotes. The top 2 rules to investing is rule number 1, don't lose money, and rule number 2 is see rule number 1. Now, in this graphic up here, as you can see, when you lose 15%, you have to get 18% just to break even, and it continues down the line exponentially to the point where if you lose 90%, you have to get 900% returns. As you can see here, the best financial advisors understand this math, and therefore they make sure to create a diverse portfolio to reduce the risk of losing any money. Which brings us to our 4th golden nugget. So how do you end up making sure you don't lose money? You create a diverse portfolio. In this book here, the reader gets a chance to really be a fly on the wall with some of the conversations Tony Robbins has with some of the great financial advisors. One of them being Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio has a different way of looking at diversifying through risk. Now, typically people would say dividing your money up 50% into stocks and 50% of bonds creates a diverse portfolio, where in reality, you're taking on much more risk than you think. Why? Because stocks are 3 times as risky as bonds. Therefore, your risk portfolio is about 95% in stocks and 5% in bonds. This type of portfolio has a strong bias to do well in the good times and bad in the bad. Thus, your de facto strategy is simply hoping that the stocks go up in price. Now, most people try to diversify by the amount of money that they put into different asset classes. Ray argues you should instead view this as diversifying your portfolio through the risk and how to allocate risk in different areas or different seasons, as he calls them. And he believes that there are 4 different types of seasons, and I will flash a graphic right up here just to give you more of a visual representation of each of the seasons and which asset classes follow in each. Ray believes that you should have 25% of your risk in each of the following seasons, as no one knows which season will be next. So how do you make sure that 25% of your risk is in each of these seasons? Well, thankfully, that brings us to our 5th and final golden nugget, where Ray shares his all-season portfolio. As you can see here, this is the asset allocation Ray recommends. Over the last 30 years, this asset allocation has provided an average annualized return of 9.72%, has made money 86% of the time over the last 30 years, keep in mind, has an average loss of 1.9%, as well as the worst loss being 3.93% in 2008. In comparison, during this time, the S&P 500 was down 37%. How is that for a diverse portfolio? There are other funds or portfolios that do induce more growth. However, they have a lot more extreme volatility. So that's just something to keep in mind when you are investing. So I'd rate this book a 7.5 out of 10 and really recommend it to anyone that likes to get into the financial weeds of either personal finance or investing. If that's not you, then I'd really recommend his book, Unshakable. He wrote that as a condensed version of this book. Now, why a 7.5 and not higher? Well, at times I felt this book repeated itself a lot, and that 600 pages limit could easily have been chunked down to 400. Nevertheless, it was a fantastic read, and I'm really glad I read it. I hope you gained a little bit of value out of this book review, and make sure to drop a like if you enjoyed it yourself.